Welcome to the Grand Theft World podcast, hosted and sponsored by the fine members over at grandtheftworld.com. There's a lot of news that happened this past week, so we're going to spend the next 6 or 7 hours breaking it open, juxtaposing the news to the facts of history and what we might learn from these trends and repeating rhythms of the World Economic Forum. This is the episode 134, Kennedy versus the Great Reset. He's up against a World Economic Forum leading edge of globalists. He's going to say some things about his uncle getting killed by their predecessors. It's sure to spark off a lot of interest as it gets more interesting. But first, we got to break open some of the bigger stories in this past week of Grand Theft World news. So the lockdowns, you guys remember the lockdowns, right? We did it because it's going to lower the death rate and yada, yada, yada. Well, it turns out that wasn't really true. And the lockdowns did not have a significant impact at all on lowering the death rates. So one must ask the question now, in hindsight, what was it all about? And did they know that ahead of time?
A new study in The Lancet finds that while state governments' use of protective mandates were associated with lower COVID infection rates, as were mask use, lower mobility, and higher vaccination rates, mandates did not make a noticeable difference when it came to overall death rate.
Yeah, this is an interesting finding published by The Lancet. So it did find, so they were comparing states with different mandates for different periods of time, and they were saying what they're looking at, you did get lower cases for masks, lockdowns, and vaccination, but you only got an actual lower death rate for vaccination did produce lower death rate, but not the other interventions.
Ron DeSantis made his presidential announcement this past week.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Hilfa, I don't think they can hear me.
I can hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George.
Can somebody just mute George?
Dick, could you try not to cough on the...
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
Guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can listen in.
God damn it.
Anyway, guys, we invited everyone to this Twitter space so Governor Ron DeSantis could...
Everyone just shut the hell up so I can make my announcement, okay?
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay. I happen to know every single one of you has a secret gay lover hidden in your closet.
Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen.
Guys, can we please just calm down?
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to announce that I'm...
Okay, I can hear the governor very well.
Shut up,
Would you please shut up already? I'm running for fucking president, okay?
Yeah, we kind of already knew about it.
Know, Governor.
Congratulations, Governor.
Well, that concludes our Twitter space for today. Thank you to all of our...
Hold your horses, Elon. The real president is going to say a few words. The devil, I'm going to kick your ass very soon. Hitler, you're already dead. Dick Cheney sounds like you'll be joining Hitler very soon. Klaus Schwab and George Soros, I'm putting both your asses in jail. And Ron DeSanctimonious can kiss my big, beautiful 2024 presidential ass. Trump 2024, baby. Let's go.
He said he had a big announcement, then he announced it, and then he tried to go on Twitter and announce it again, and it was a flop. And a lot of people realized kind of the wooden Pinocchio puppet personality of DeSantis. Not very spontaneous, not very affable. Reading a teleprompter script, all the words sound great, especially on paper. But in an announcement, we expected something more charismatic. So we're going to look into that crash and burn. Elon Musk was right there with him. The Twitter spaces weren't working too well. So really it was not what they expected it to be. And that's what you get for letting the cat out of the bag before your big announcement. A lot of people just, turned up with higher expectations than maybe they should have.
It was a total and a complete disaster. We are not exaggerating. Glitches from the very beginning. We have a little bit of a highlight reel for everybody. Let's take a listen.
All right, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the grip. All right, sorry about that. We've got so many people here that I think we are kind of melting the servers. which is a good sign. Might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for nearly a quarter century. His commitment to freedom and his willingness to put his money where his mouth is upset the narrative control.
Let's see. So, we on? Yeah, I think so.
Just to simplify this, there's 382,000 people in the room.
All right, great. So let's see.
So they just keep crashing, huh?
Yeah, I think we've got just a massive number of people online, so it's servers are straining somewhat. All right, we're just reallocating more server capability to be able to handle the load here. It's really going crazy. So yeah, obviously very excited to have Governor DeSantis make this.
All right, I think we're broadcasting. Man, I think we melted the internet there.
Yeah, that was insane. Sorry, we actually doing this from David Sax's Twitter account because it looks like doing it from mine basically broke the Twitter system.
Governor DeSantis, are you there? Can you hear us? I think you broke.
I'm here.
Excellent. I know. I think you broke the internet there. We had over 500,000 people in one Twitter space, and it was growing by like 50,000 a minute. So, congrats on breaking the internet there.
Well, yeah. I mean, try some new things. You're gonna.
Yes.
It's adventurous. So
yes.
But I think the value here is actually really high for people to hear directly from presidential candidates and to answer a Q&A live, and you can get a sense for how a candidate really is, and where it's not just canned speeches and teleprompters. It's in fact, you can tell by the some of the mistakes that it's real.
My personal favorite, Crystal, is whenever they keep forgetting to pause and they're like basically on a hot mic before everybody else. So after exactly 25 minutes of glitches, we finally did get to hear from the candidate. The candidate, Governor DeSantis, whose Twitter video actually went out at 6 p.m. By the way, we'll be breaking all that down tomorrow in our morning show. But reads straight up, Crystal, off of a script, basically from his campaign ad, an entirely 5-minute long presentation.
Truth needs to be our foundation. Common sense can no longer be an uncommon virtue. And in Florida, we proved it could be done. We chose facts over fear, education over indoctrination, law and order over rioting and disorder. We held the line when freedom hung in the balance. And we're thriving as a result. Florida is the nation's fastest growing state. We're number 1 in net in-migration, number 1 in new business formations, recently ranked number 1 in education. We have a 50-year low crime rate and one of the lowest tax and debt per capita in America. But we also understand governing is not entertainment. It's not about building a brand or virtue signaling. It is about delivering results. And our results in Florida have been second to none. We can and we must deliver big results for America. I pledge to be an energetic executive that will take on the important issues.
Also, in this past week, Bud Light's got some competition. Target has figured out a way to go out and lose $10 billion in market share in the first week. They're going to have to do a lot to catch up to Bud Light. I think Bud Light now has lost like $16 billion. So they're in a race to the bottom of the go woke, get broke type of scenario. So we're going to look into that story and maybe the deeper meanings behind the Target itself, because there might be a point in the Circle Masonic reference to that whole thing, or you might be the target of their operation.
Yeah. Attention all shoppers, There's a cleanup on every aisle. Target is targeting your kids.
They put a target on my back, but they targeting your kids. They don't even need to ask, cause you all know what it is. Yeah, that's why I keep it strapped, and I'm always by my bands. This agenda gotta stop. Yeah, you know we gonna win when they target, yeah, they target and target, yeah, they target kids.
I learned this past week that Jimmy Dore, the comedian, the pothead in his garage, Jimmy Dore, he's on the Ukrainian kill list. Yes, they would like to assassinate Jimmy Dore, and he's not alone. There's several of his colleagues from the gray zone also on that list, and the list is held by NATO. So it's a pretty interesting circumstance that gets an American journalist listed on a Western military death list.
I am now officially a part of the Ukraine kill list, right? So the Ukraine government has this website, and anybody who tells the truth about the war in Ukraine, they put them on a kill list, and they actually kill some of them. And so I'll just show you what it says on here. Here's what it says up here. It says it's non-government Center for Research of Signs of Crimes Against the National Security of Ukraine, Peace, Humanity, and the International Law. Information for law enforcement authorities and special services about pro-Russian terrorists, separatists, mercenaries, war criminals, and murderers. So that's what they say we are. And so there it is. That's my close-up. It's not a horrible picture. Dissemination of Kremlin so then what does it say here? It says dissemination of Kremlin propaganda narratives with an aim of receiving financial compensation from the aggressor country. Justification and informational support of fascist Russia's open attack on Ukraine. And then there's the big page, and it lists all my YouTube stuff that I've when I've told the truth about Ukraine. They list them. That's their evidence for me being a bad person that should be killed. And then down here, it says this. It says the Peacemaker Center asks law enforcement agencies to consider this publication on this site as a statement that this citizen committed a deliberate act against the national security of Ukraine, peace, the security of humanity, and the international legal order, as well as other offenses. Now, this guy, what's his name? David Miller wrote an article about this list. And in it, he says that, so why do they have this list? He says the issue of Nazism in Ukraine will be seen in retrospect as a defining issue of our era. And it is important to remember that the reason I and many others are threatened by the Ukraine government and their NATO backers is because we, in turn, threaten to expose them for what they are, Nazi collaborators. And that's what the Ukraine government is. As it turns out, the Covert Kill List website is a product of the Ukraine regime, effectively funded by the CIA, among others, and is hosted by NATO.
Yes.
One extraordinary thing is that the many American citizens, including ex-military and intelligence operatives, are included, as well as significant numbers of citizens of NATO member countries. Perhaps the most remarkable element is that NATO has hosted the site and a collection of affiliated websites on its servers in Brussels. At the same time as NATO think tank, the Atlantic Council boasts that Henry Kissinger is on its board of directors, NATO also hosts a kill list website on which Kissinger appears. So let me bring in Max Blumenthal, who's also on this list, and along with Aaron Matze, who also works at the Gray Zone. And so NATO's hosting this. It's funded by the CIA. Is that true?
Well, I'm actually not on the list, which kind of makes me worried.
Oh, I thought you were on this list. Just Aaron is on it?
Anya.
Aaron and Anya Parampil,
okay,
our other colleague at the Gray Zone, recently appeared on it just days before you appeared. So they're going after more American public figures and journalists than ever before. And
go ahead.
You know, they say in the upper right-hand corner of the site, if you just go to Mirot Voretz, the Peacemaker website, it says Langley, Virginia, but I don't know if that's just like a troll or what. I don't know who's actually maintaining it. I've seen a lot of evidence that the servers are in Brussels. What's clear to me is that the Ukrainian government, it's not clear to me, this is just a fact. Elements in the Ukrainian government openly support and promote and participate in the maintenance of this website, this malicious website. One figure is named Anton Gerashenko. He is a special advisor to the Interior Ministry, which oversees the Ukrainian SBU, which is the security services that maintain the death squads that go out and kill suspected collaborators, disappear political dissidents, terrorize elements of the population, political opposition, in a completely autocratic society run by Vladimir Zelensky, and that the Ukrainian government and the SBU well, first of all, the SBU was trained by the CIA after 2014, after this US-backed coup, and the Ukrainian government is like funded directly by us. So, I mean, just based on what's publicly known, we are behind this. My personal opinion is that this website, and there are other initiatives of the Ukrainian government that have targeted me, are like a proxy for the US or UK government to attack their own citizens without having to do it directly.
So he actually went into a little bit of detail. I don't want to get too into the weeds on this, but I'll give you a little bit of it. He says, let's start with the kill list website itself at Myro Trevets. Today it's located at myrotrevets.center, but it was originally at psb4ukr.org. That domain was first registered on the 14th of August, 2014, some 6 months after the U.S.-backed Maidan coup that overthrew the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych. 3 people are associated with these domains, and they provide valuable clues to who and what was involved in the kill list site. They are Victor Garber, a longstanding Maidan activist and co-coordinator of the Maidan Monitoring Information Center. He was the first registrant of Myro Trevets domain. That's the kill list website. In August of 2014, he had previously owned the domain of Maidan Monitoring from 2001. The group also has it has been in existence since before the so-called Orange Revolution in 2004. It was, of course, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, the foundation known as the CIA Sidekick, and the International Renaissance Fund, the Ukraine branch of the Open Society Foundation run by George Soros. MyTrevets lists thousands of saboteurs, separatists, and terrorists and traitors. Sometimes it has crossed out their photographs once they have been killed with the label liquidated. This, for instance, happened after the murder of Daria Dugina in Moscow in August of 2022. Today, the MyTrevets site houses links to 2 other domains which appear to be integral parts of the operation. So It is the Ukraine government. They are targeting people. This is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a CIA cutout. So this is our own tax dollars being used to target journalists in the United States. This seems like it would be a big story, except the people who can make it a big story, the people in the corporate press, aren't ever going to be on that list, so they don't care.
So we're going to look into stories like that. Also, the IRS has removed the entire Hunter Biden investigation team. Nothing to be seen there. That's totally normal. It's not a prejudice toward political power whatsoever. The scales of justice always make abrupt movements on their own without anyone putting their thumb on the scale.
We turn now to a CBS News exclusive. For more than 3 years, the Department of Justice has been investigating the president's son, Hunter Biden, for possible tax crimes. Last fall, FBI sources told us they had sufficient evidence to bring charges. CBS's Jim Axelrod spoke to the IRS agent who is blowing the whistle on what he says was preferential treatment in his first public interview.
When I took control of this particular investigation, I immediately saw it, was way outside the norm of what I've experienced in the past.
Gary Shapley is a supervisory special agent for the IRS, where he's worked for 14 years. In January 2020, he was assigned to what he calls a high-profile investigation.
Who's the subject of the investigation?
I can't confirm or deny the subject of this investigation.
Why not?
Because, part of the tax secrecy laws don't allow it.
Shapley can't say it, but CBS News has learned the investigation was the probe of Hunter Biden by the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware. Senior Biden administration officials have vowed to let it run its course without interference.
It's not restricted in his investigation in any way.
But CBS News has obtained this letter Shapley's lawyers sent to Congress Monday, alleging irregularities in DOJ's handling of the investigation. Shapley is seeking legal protections from Congress so he can share specifics of his allegations.
There was multiple steps that were slow-walked at the direction of the Department of Justice.
Had you ever encountered that before?
I have not, no. These deviations from normal process, and each and every time it seemed to always benefit the subject.
Shapley says he decided to blow the whistle after a heated meeting last October with federal prosecutors.
It was my red line meeting. It just got to that point where that switch was turned on, and I just couldn't silence my conscience anymore.
Did you let prosecutors know you were unhappy?
I don't think I can answer that.
Hunter Biden has denied any wrongdoing.
Like civil servants.
The IRS agent told us he is a registered Republican. His whistleblowing is being assisted by an advocacy group with past ties to the GOP. But Shapley says this is not about politics.
Why do you want to navigate these waters?
I don't want to do any of this. I took an oath of office, and when I saw the egregiousness of some of these things, it no longer became a choice for me. It's not something that I want to do. It's something that I feel like I have to do.
The IRS told us it can't comment on specific cases, but is committed to supporting whistleblowers in general. Both the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware declined to comment.
Nothing to see there. So Epstein continues to have news come out this week. We found out last week that he was blackmailing Bill Gates. And when you get into the story, maybe now we understand Bill Gates's quip about the death of Epstein. Well, he's dead now, so you have to be careful, because maybe that's Bill Gates saying Epstein got out of line and he's dead now. You have to be careful. You don't go blackmailing Bill Gates.
More twists are emerging in the Bill Gates-Jeffrey Epstein saga. Reports say the woman with whom Gates was having an alleged affair that convicted sex offender Epstein threatened to expose was in fact an associate of the notorious Kremlin spy Anna Chapman. Now, last week, a report by Wall Street Journal revealed that Epstein had threatened Gates over an affair with the Russian bridge player Mila Antonova, whom Gates met in the year 2010. New reports now say that Antonova also had links with Chapman, a Russian spy who was exposed as a sleeper agent and deported from the U.S. in the same year. A selfie of Chapman and Antonova as they walk along a New York road has been uncovered by the Daily Mail, and it raises new questions about the links that Gates had with Epstein. And also whether both Epstein and Gates knew about Antonova's association with Chapman, though there is no evidence of any wrongdoing on Antonova's part. Now, Gates has admitted that Epstein had tried to threaten him over his past relationship and forced him to support a charity fund that Epstein was trying to build. Both met multiple times. However, Gates had expressed regret over the meetings after Epstein's conviction in 2019 for soliciting prostitution from a minor. He died months later in custody in an apparent suicide.
Also tonight, we have special guest Jason Bermas coming up around 10:30 Eastern time. So let's go to the kickoff. Luke Radowski from wearechange.org and thebestpoliticalshirts.com. This is one of them. And let's get the summary from early today.
Wow. If a country and a population was being deliberately destroyed from the inside, that's exactly how it would look, because that's exactly what's happening here.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.